we know, we get a little bit more clarity as well. We do have the AP media poll that came out actually earlier today, matter of fact. Now, what we did end up seeing in the previous podcast, we saw the coaches poll come out for the for the coaches. So the coaches have made their rankings last week, coaches throughout the country, and now the media is getting involved. And this is released by the AP Top 25, and these are the rankings that you'll see on your ESPN updates. That's what ESPN goes off of, not what the coaches think, but what the media thinks. And this was released earlier today. So I'm recording this podcast on August 14th. You guys will be seeing this go live on the morning of the 15th as well. So that being said, we got some things that are similar. We got some things that are different. I'm going to pull up the AP Top 25 right now. It's going to be on your screen. And, we got some things that are the same. We got some things that are a little bit different as well. First and foremost, Georgia and Michigan, that was the top two in the coaches poll. That was also the case in the media poll as well. But there is some differences. Matter of fact, I got it on a sticky note here. Differences between the coaches poll that was released last week and the AP poll as well. So we're going to go ahead, run through those differences. And, some conferences, got to bump up. Some conferences got to bump down. And I think you guys will be surprised to see who benefited the most versus who ended up getting shafted a little bit, quite frankly. So we'll go ahead and dive right into that now. We'll start with really in the top five, within that top five as well. So in the coaches poll, Alabama was ranked number 3. Ohio State was ranked number 4. They're actually going to flip-flop. It's extremely close. It is extremely close in the media poll. Ohio State has 1,400 points. Alabama has 2 less points than that. So it's like a 3A, 3B type of thing, but Alabama, at least for right now, is going to be your number 4. So that's what we saw first and foremost with that. Teams 5 through 9 are the same, but then we get to rounding out the top 10. We actually have a couple of teams that did move up a spot. Washington and Texas actually did move up from the coaches poll. Washington ranked number 11 in the country. Texas is ranked number 12 in that coaches poll. They both move up one spot. And the team that is going to be most affected by that is Tennessee. They were actually tied for the team that fell the most between the coaches poll and the AP poll. They fall to number 12 in the country. They now fall in behind Washington and the University of Texas. Meanwhile, some other things that I definitely want to keep track of and to note, we do have Kansas State. They move up past TCU. Kansas State, you guys remember winning that Big 12 championship, but TCU going to the college football playoff, made it to the national championship game, but they lost a lot of talent. They're down here at number 17 for this AP poll. At least that's what we're looking at as of right now. Then we start to round out the this group. Wisconsin getting a nice little bump. They were actually the biggest riser in the difference between the coaches and the AP poll. Wisconsin moves up a couple of spots. They're up to number 19, and they move past Oklahoma and North Carolina. They both fall down one singular spot. And then rounding out your top 25, we actually get a little bit more love for Texas A&M. They move up to number 23 in the entire country. They were 24 in the coaches poll. They move past Tulane, who was 23 in the coaches poll. They're now down to number 24. And then that last spot is, instead of seeing Texas Tech was 24 in the coaches poll. They will actually not be ranked in the AP top 25, but instead we'll see the Iowa Hawkeyes at number 25 in the country. Texas Tech is the first team to receive votes, though. Other notable teams that are receiving votes is South Carolina, UCLA, and UTSA. They are actually in shouting distance in terms of receiving votes, of actually sneaking in to that top 25. So, yeah, that's what we got going for the top 25. So what's interesting here though is who composes the top 25. If you want to break it down into conferences, the SEC, I don't think many of us are too surprised by this, but the SEC does have 6 teams that do be a part of this initial top 25. They got Georgia, Alabama, LSU. That's in the top 5 alone. Then there's a little bit of a break. We got Tennessee after that. We also have Ole Miss and Texas A&M. So that's going to be your 6 teams if I did my math right, which I think I did. If you want to count the teams that are going to be joining the SEC after this season, the SEC would have 8 teams in the top 25. Conversely, the Big Ten, not too far behind, and they might be the biggest winners of college football realignment. So right now, they have 5 teams in the top 25. That's Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, all in the top 10. There's quite a bit of a gap after that. Wisconsin and Iowa sneaking in there at number 25. But that's not the biggest story. It's actually who they are going to get from a college football realignment. So we said Oregon is joining. Washington is going to join as well. UCLA and USC. UCLA is receiving votes, but USC, Washington, and Oregon all joining the Big Ten. And they'll also be at 8 teams in the top 25 if this was dropped at the start of the 2024 season, which, speaking of the Pac-12, Pac-12 is going to get a lot of respect as well. Pac-12 is going to have 5 teams in here as well between USC, Washington. We also have Utah, Oregon, Oregon State. Maybe the last year that we see, well, it used to be, I don't know what it's called now, but it used to be called the Civil War. So 5 teams there from the Pac-12 getting a lot of respect. But you know who's maybe not necessarily getting a lot of love necessarily? The ACC. ACC only has a few teams: Florida State, Clemson, and unless I'm drawing some major blanks, the only other team in there is North Carolina. So they only got 3 teams in their total. That would be the least of all of the conferences that is still part of the Power 5. Also, shout out to Tulane, only group of 5 team that is initially ranked in the preseason top 25. UTSA is not too far behind. They are in the top 30. Watch out for UTSA. They could win that American Conference as well and be a top 25 team by the end of the season. So that'll be a team to certainly watch out for going into this season. So, as I said earlier, this is what I have in terms of conferences that benefit and conferences that, got the shaft a little bit. So, you want to talk about a conference that benefited the most from the coaches poll to the media poll? The media was more kind to the Big Ten than they were to the SEC. We talked about the SEC bias, and I certainly think that it's there. Don't get me wrong. I definitely think that there is some bias in the SEC in how they're covered. But like breaking it down from the coaches poll, from the media poll, the Big Ten had 3 teams that rose a spot or more from the media poll, from the coaches poll. They all moved at least 1 spot. Ohio State did that. They move up to 3. Wisconsin moves up 2, and then Iowa gets into the top 25 as well. So 3 of those teams from the Big Ten moved up, and then there was nobody from the Big Ten that fell from their original spots. So good looks for the Big Ten. Big 12 is a little bit of a mixed bag. 5 teams move from their initial spots, 2 of which do move up a spot, Texas being one of them, Kansas State being another, while TCU, Oklahoma, and I had one more, Texas Tech. Texas Tech fell a couple spots. They fall out of the top 25 completely. So a mixed bag for the Big 12 conference. It is a mixed bag. And then rounding out the teams that maybe rose to the top, SEC got 1 team that rose up a spot. That was Texas A&M. They move up to number 23. And then the Pac-12 also benefited from having Washington move up a spot. SEC also having a mixed bag. SEC had a couple of teams move down. Tennessee moving down a couple spots. Bama getting passed by Ohio State. Okay. And then rounding out the teams that maybe fell, maybe actually, I would argue, kind of had the biggest disappointment. It's a two-way tie. The ACC had a team fall. That was North Carolina. They fell from 20 to 21. And then the American, 23 to 24. But the group of five still has their one top 25 team. So it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out. I don't have any massive issues with it. I mean, we just don't know what's going to happen over the course of the season. LSU at 5, it might seem high to some people, but the way that LSU was playing towards the end of the season, Jaden Daniels is back. They have a lot of talent coming back as well, recruiting extremely well under Brian Kelly. I have as my dark horse to win the SEC. I think LSU is that good. Penn State is showing that in America, they're the best team in the country that will finish further worse in their own division. They are going to be a team that is going to benefit immensely from expanding to a 12-team playoff. Because for Penn State to get in, they have to beat either Michigan or Ohio State. They haven't done that as of recently. And that it's tough. It's tough out there in the Big Ten East towards the top. But, Penn State's going to have to find a way. We'll see if Drew Auer can get them over the top. They should have a very good defense out there in Penn State. Florida State passing Clemson. We saw this in the coaches poll. We saw this in the media poll now here released earlier today as well. So is this a possible passing of the torch in the ACC as well? Is Florida State going to win the ACC? Are they going to take down Clemson? Because remember, the ACC got rid of division. So it's no longer you win your division and go. It's straight up two best teams in the ACC. You'll play up against each other for a conference championship. So we'll see Florida State and Clemson play in the regular season. We might see them in conference championship weekend as well. We'll keep an eye on that as well. Tennessee at 12, going to be honest, seems a little high to me. They lost a considerable amount of talent. That defense really needs to step up. That is a question mark for Tennessee. We know Joe Milton. We talked about it on last week's podcast. We see him have the arm talent. He's probably one of the most physically gifted quarterbacks in the NCAA. At least top 5. Does he have it up here? Neck up. Does he have the mental it factor to be a great quarterback at the college level? Does he have that? We're going to find out, because if not, it might be a regression year for Tennessee. I would actually probably, because of that, look at the teams behind them. I would probably be comfortable moving Notre Dame, Utah, and Oregon. All of those teams past Tennessee because of the question marks. I don't think those 3 teams I mentioned don't nearly have the same questions, even though they're just as talented or maybe even a tick above Tennessee right now. Grand Volunteers have been recruiting pretty well. Oregon State, though, getting some love. Oregon State getting in at 18. They were a 10-win team last year. They had very below average quarterback play. Could they also be a dark horse to win the Pac-12? They got DJU, and it didn't pan out at Clemson. He was a former 5-star quarterback. Just didn't pan out. He's now at Oregon State. Can you at least provide stability at the quarterback position? Because that's what held Oregon State back the most of this past season. If they can get that, watch out. Oregon State could turn a lot of heads. They really could. And then rounding out the top 25, just my initial thoughts, trying to close all of that out. North Carolina. Not sure if I see them as a top 25 team. They nearly won double-digit games last year, but at the same time, this is also a team that, lost 3 of their last 4 of their last 5. They did not end the season very well. I don't know if they're on an upward trajectory. Drake May, he's going to have to really move up and show that he is a top 5 pick in the NFL if North Carolina is going to have the same kind of season. A lot's going to be hinging on Drake Hayes. And God forbid he gets hurt. North Carolina is going to struggle to get to a bowl game. I think it's a lot on on May. Wish him the best of luck. Finally, a couple of teams I was a little surprised to see: Oklahoma and Texas A&M. Neither of those teams had a lot of success, and I'm going to be honest. I think the AP is sleeping on Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech, they have a lot of returning production back. They have a absolutely stellar offense. This defense might start to catch up a little bit too. Texas Tech might surprise some people. No one's talking about them, but I'm sure the boys over in Lubbock, Texas won't mind. And then Texas A&M, they didn't even make it to a bowl game. And I understand that they have a bunch of talent on that roster, but I have no idea what's going to happen with Texas A&M. I really don't know. But that being said, if I had to choose, I'm looking at what, UCLA did, what South Carolina did. I think one of those two teams probably should have gotten in before Texas A&M. Now, they could prove me wrong, but there's a large range of outcomes for the Texas A&M Aggies this upcoming season. So that wraps up my thoughts on the AP Top 25 that was released on August 14th. Let me know down in the comments section. Let me know what you guys are thinking about that. Do you think there's a team that's particularly too high or a team that's particularly too low? Or if you even agree or disagree with what I have to say about this particular poll.